There are places in this world so secretive, even satellites are told to look away. Saydnaya Prison, perched on a remote mountain north of Damascus, is one such place. Known only through survivor testimony and sketchy satellite data, Saydnaya is more myth than map, until you hear the stories. They call it the place where sound disappears, a prison where speaking is forbidden, screaming is ignored, and silence becomes your only companion. In a world full of noise, Saydnaya remains a silent monument to suffering. Subscribe to our channel as we uncover the truth behind the concrete walls of Syria's most feared detention center and confront what the world has tried to forget. A fortress of fear, the location, and secrecy. Saydnaya Prison sits atop a rugged hill about 30 kilometers north of Damascus. Its elevation, isolation, and strategic location were not chosen by accident. From this high vantage point, the facility is shielded from visibility, by terrain, by military patrols, and by government silence. No public roads lead directly to it, no civilians pass by. It is, by design, removed from the outside world. Photographs of the site are nearly non-existent. The Syrian government has blocked media access for decades, and aerial images were, for years, censored or left deliberately vague. It wasn't until survivors collaborated with Amnesty International that we got detailed architectural reconstructions, built not from photographs, but from memory and sound. The prison structure features double perimeter fencing, restricted checkpoints, and heavily fortified entrances. Many of its cells are underground, adding to the claustrophobia and isolation. It's not uncommon for families to spend years unaware of where or whether their loved ones are still alive. This secrecy isn't accidental, it's tactical. In Saydnaya, not knowing is part of the punishment, for the prisoners and for the people who love them. It's a place designed not just to contain bodies, but to erase existence entirely. From military barracks to house of horror. Saydnaya Prison was originally constructed in the 1980s under the rule of Hafez al-Assad, father of Syria's current president. At first, it served primarily as a military detention center, strict, secretive, but not yet infamous. That changed after 2011 when the Arab Spring protests swept through Syria. What began as peaceful demonstrations quickly escalated into brutal crackdowns, arrests, and mass imprisonments. Saydnaya became the government's answer to political dissent. Protesters, bloggers, university students, even minors were swept up by security forces, often without charges. Many disappeared without trial. Inside Saydnaya, they joined a swelling population of detainees, many of whom had never committed a violent act. According to a 2017 Amnesty International report, over 13,000 people were executed in secret at Saydnaya between 2011 and 2015. The executions were carried out under the cover of night, often without formal proceedings. Victims were told they were being transferred only to be hanged hours later. This wasn't just imprisonment, it was systemic elimination. Saydnaya transformed from a military facility into a house of horror, a place where law collapsed and fear reigned. For many Syrians, its name is synonymous not with justice, but with the terror of vanishing without a trace. The arrival, blindfolds, beatings, and the disappearance of identity. For those who enter Saydnaya, the ordeal begins long before the prison gates close behind them. Prisoners are transported blindfolded, sometimes with their heads pressed between their knees for hours, unable to see or speak. Upon arrival, they are immediately subjected to violent beatings, often carried out with batons, cables, or rifle butts. The beatings serve no purpose other than to break the spirit, to send a message, you are no longer human here. Personal belongings are stripped away. Clothing is replaced with identical prison uniforms, marked not by names but by numbers. From that point on, prisoners are referred to only by these numbers. Their identities are erased, replaced with silence and submission. They are forbidden from speaking, forbidden from looking guards in the eye, forbidden from making any sound. Survivors describe being hooded for days, forced into stress positions, and subjected to torture even before any interrogation begins. One former inmate recalled the feeling of electrical wires being attached to his fingers and feet while still blindfolded. Another said beatings were so routine they could tell which guard was coming by the rhythm of his boots. Saydnaya's intake is not just a process, it's a ritual of dehumanization. The goal is to remove all sense of self, to turn individuals into shadows. And for many, that transformation begins the moment the blindfold goes on and the beatings begin. In this place, identity isn't lost. It's deliberately erased. Starvation, darkness, and psychological warfare. Inside Saydnaya, existence is stripped to the barest elements. Prisoners are confined in cramped, filthy cells with no natural light. The air is stale, often filled with the stench of mold, sweat, and untreated wounds. Time becomes untrackable. There are no windows, no clocks, and no sense of day or night, only the endless monotony of survival. Meals are minimal and irregular. A piece of bread, a spoonful of rice, sometimes a watery soup. Malnutrition is common. Inmates report sharing crumbs just to sustain each other. Medical care is non-existent. Even broken bones or infected wounds are left untreated. Those who fall ill are expected to endure without complaint, and any attempt to ask for help can be met with punishment. Silence is enforced like law. Even coughing, whispering, or shifting too loudly can result in a beating. Some inmates have spoken of learning to cry without making a sound. Others describe the mental torment of listening to others suffer without ever being able to offer help or even acknowledgement. The point of this regime isn't just physical restraint, it's psychological demolition. Deprived of food, contact, and light, many prisoners begin to lose their grip on reality. Memory fades, language deteriorates, hallucinations become routine. Some forget what their families looked like. Others forget their own names. In Saydnaya, punishment is not only inflicted on the body, it's designed to break the mind. In this place, silence is not peace, it's a weapon. The sounds of death. Night executions and mass hangings. For many inside Saydnaya, the darkest hour is not a metaphor, it's literal. Executions occur under the cover of night, carried out in complete secrecy, yet their echoes haunt every cell. Survivors and former guards have described the chilling rhythm of these routines. Around midnight, guards quietly unlock specific cells. The chosen are blindfolded and told they're being transferred. They never return. Those removed are led to a lower-level chamber. There, often after a scripted reading of charges or forced confessions, prisoners are hanged. This process is disturbingly efficient. Some nights, 20 to 50 people are executed in a single batch. The procedures are swift, mechanical, and calculated to avoid emotional disruption for those carrying them out. To muffle the sounds, guards bang on pipes or play loud music through the corridors. But the silence afterwards speaks louder. Survivors recall lying awake, counting the footsteps, memorizing the order. Some learn to identify the exact hour when death would come. One survivor said he could recognize the difference in door hinges. The death cell doors sounded heavier. Afterward, the bodies are quietly transported out of the facility, often under military guard. It is believed they are buried in unmarked mass graves near Damascus, far from the eyes of families or justice. These executions are not just about erasing people, they are about instilling fear in the living. At Saydnaya, you don't just fear death, you fear the moment before, when silence falls and you realize it's your turn. Part 6. International Reactions and Evidence. In 2010, Amnesty International released a report titled Human Slaughterhouse, a term that would come to define Saydnaya's global reputation. Based on extensive interviews with survivors, former officials, and forensic experts, the report estimated that over 13,000 people were secretly executed at the prison between 2011 and 2015. The findings shocked the world, but failed to spark meaningful change. The United Nations Commission on Human Rights later cited Saydnaya as strong evidence of war crimes, calling for immediate investigations. Yet despite these calls, no international body has ever been granted access to the facility. The Syrian government continues to deny all allegations, calling them fabricated or politically motivated. Survivors played a pivotal role in reconstructing the prison's layout using only memory and sound cues. Collaborating with Amnesty and forensic architecture, they built 3D models that reveal a haunting level of detail, down to the metal doors and underground execution chambers. Still, global response has remained weak. Russia and China have repeatedly vetoed UN Security Council resolutions aimed at investigating Syrian prison abuses. Western governments have condemned the atrocities, but none have launched targeted interventions or investigations solely for Saydnaya. It stands as one of the world's most well-documented atrocities, and yet one of the least acted upon. Once a former detainee explained, "I wasn't sure I was still human when I left." Years later, the emotional scars remain far deeper than the physical ones. Organizations like the Syrian Network for Human Rights and the Caesar Files Group continue to collect data, identify victims, and archive evidence for a future they hope will include accountability. For these survivors, speaking out is not just a form of healing, it's a duty, because in the face of silence, memory becomes resistance. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Like this video, share it with others, and leave a comment below. Your voice matters. What do you think should happen to facilities like Saydnaya? Should the international community step in? Subscribe for more hidden truths the world needs to hear. Your engagement helps bring light to the darkest places.